structure your job search, right? Because marketing is such a wide field.
It totally matters on how you show it in your CV.
Since you were so active on LinkedIn before, did it help you in any way in reaching out to people?
A lot of the times when I message people, they did end up looking at my profile first before responding to me.
And to marketing in general, what are the 3 key tips that you'll give to them?
Number one would be
So how was your plan of action like?
that's not really worked for me because initially even I was in the numbers game thinking keep apply to as many jobs as possible.
Hi, Komal. Thank you so much for taking our time and joining us today. The aim of this conversation is simple to let the students who are applying or who are planning to apply know about everything that we wish we had known when we were applying. And you, we think, is the best person to touch upon marketing and how you leverage your network and get a job in marketing and how the entire experience was for you. So if you could just give the audience a brief overview of what you're doing currently and a brief introduction of yourself.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me here, Anya and Vani. Lovely to be here. Lovely to chat with you guys. Hi, everyone. I'm Komal. I'm originally from New Delhi, India, and I just completed my master's in marketing from the University of Nottingham in December, so about 3 months back. And I am currently working as a product marketing associate at a B2B SaaS company called Zora. So like everyone, I was in the middle of applying to, I must have applied to over 220 jobs or something before I landed this one. A lot of interviews, a lot of breakdowns, a lot of contemplating life and wondering if I should go back, wondering if I should stay here, and a lot of other things. But I think after a lot of navigating through things and I think a little bit of luck as well, I could manage to finally land a job here. So I'm glad I could, and I'm glad I'm able to kind of help in any way possible, answer any questions. So yeah, lovely to be here.
Wow, cheers to that. Congratulations on cracking this entire UK job market, and everyone is just talking about, how tough it is right now. And congratulations for making it through. And like, could you just like tell us more about, what made you go for a master's in the first place, and what were you doing after you graduated from Venki, I think, in DU, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
what were you doing after that, and what made you apply for a master's and go ahead?
Also, considering the fact that you're already doing so well for yourself, so on social media, etc., and that's good enough in itself. So what pushed you to actually go for a master's?
Yeah, so lovely question. To give context, I did my bachelor's in English literature from Sri Venkateswara College of Venki in the University of Delhi. And in my last 1.5 years of college, COVID hit India and like the world really badly. And up until that point, I was dancing. Honestly, I must have attended like, I don't know, 8, 9 classes in my first 1.5 years in college because I was dancing constantly. And Delhi University kind of promotes that extracurricular activities and stuff. So I was in the dance society, dancing constantly and everything. So honestly, marketing was not on my mind. A master's was definitely not on the books. I only wanted to dance. But when the pandemic hit, I had too much free time on my hands. I couldn't dance. I couldn't go to college. I couldn't meet my friends. There was too much free time. And that's when I thought, okay, I think um, if I need to do something in life, especially after things open up, I need to start doing it right now. And just to not do house chores at that point because I hated doing that. And fill up my time. Created a LinkedIn profile and just started creating content in the hopes that I would probably land an internship or like a part-time something just to fill up my time because everyone was online at that point. And so I just started creating content. And through that, I started receiving like short freelance writing assignments, which were fine because at that point in 2020, I was what 20-year-old, and I was like, acha, if I can earn some money while sitting at home and get to build my CV, I mean that's the cherry on top. And I don't have to do the household chores while I was at home. So that's a good deal. And so I started doing that. And I think rest just kept on happening as like a snowball effect. So I started creating content, started taking up these assignments, got more and more interested in content marketing, started taking up courses, started building my profile, worked with more clients, built my portfolio. So what happened as a result of that was almost 2 years of working with almost 30 plus B2B SaaS brands all over the world as a freelance writer. So I worked with the likes of Hotjar, Shopify, ConvertKit, like household names in the B2B software industry. Um, Created a lot of content on LinkedIn, creating an audience of 100,000 followers, getting brand deals. So I think it just kept happening after a point key. It was not in my control. So things just started happening. There was no set plan. And after a point in 2022, I think Jan, I hit a wall where I felt that things were getting very saturated for me. I mean, the money was coming in, the portfolio was being built, the LinkedIn profile was there, everything was there, but I was not growing personally a lot. And in January, when most people have already applied and already, received their offers, that's when I decided that now I want to apply to universities. And that was like a spur of the moment decision, just telling my family and my friends, I think I'm going to apply because I think that's what I want to do next. I've always wanted to go outside, but I never thought that I would actually like something enough to go outside except for dancing. And this time marketing was something that I wanted to do. And I wanted to get out of that working because right out of college, freelancing was the only thing I ever did. And I thought that I kind of confined myself in that because it got very comfortable. Ki, acha, okay, money is coming in, everything's happening. So let's just stick with that because it's comfortable. And I thought that 22 is definitely not the age to stick with something and be okay with that. And that's when I started applying to universities. So honestly, dancing a lot in college does not give you the best grades. So I could not get to a lot of the top universities. I wanted to go to either the US or I wanted to go to Europe, like HEC Paris or somewhere, or even Imperial for that matter, or something. But like, of course, I didn't have the grades for it, and I was like, chalo koi nahi. And that's when I ended up applying to a lot of other universities, and I managed to like University of Nottingham a lot, and the course and the curriculum after having spoken to a lot of people, the city. And I think rest is history. But yeah, that's how it happened. So it was not intentional at all, just kept on happening. So yeah.
That's crazy. Honestly, that's crazy. I mean, Jan is quite late. Like we've been working with students, and Jan में तो हम बोल रहे थे कि बस last chance ही है. अब if you want to apply, and this is the last shot that you have at work. So
Absolutely. I think a lot of places kind of rejected me also because तब तक like cohorts were full.
हाँ,
Except
हाँ.
for kings and all, the cohorts were full.
Yeah,
So
yeah. But
yeah.
I've heard Nottingham is good. Matlab, it's a good student city and it's a good experience. One of our friends did his undergrad from Nottingham and he loves it.
He only has
So
good things to say about it. He's like, once you
yeah,
stay in London, you are everywhere, but once you're in Nottingham, you are in Nottingham. And it's student
I
town.
agree. 100% agree. Although, like in the beginning, like when I started uni in 2022 September, in the first couple of months, I was like, yeah, shit, I should have taken a university in London because when I started applying to like internships and all, everything was in London. And I was like,
yeah,
shit, have I made a mistake? Oh my God, why am I in such a small city? But honestly, I am so glad that I got to spend that 1 year because I got the whole university
yeah,
experience.
yeah.
I'm in London working, so that's a completely different experience. So I
Yeah.
got to experience both sides of it.
Yeah, because most jobs are in London, so eventually you're going to land up in London only. And like we studied in London, LBS mein, so we were always in central London, and we didn't have that campus experience, to be honest. It was more like a city experience only, and we come from Delhi, so we
Yeah.
had that in Delhi also. So it's very similar. Like we had no cultural shock. It's very similar to Delhi. So yeah, I get it, but. I mean, we loved our university. Of course, we
But
would have it any other way. But yeah, I get what you're saying. That's very cool.
Yeah, I mean, I
And
think being in London didn't help us or anyone in terms of applying to internships and getting
yes,
roles, etc. Because anyway, all the networking events happen in university only, right? So every networking event that we mostly attended was confined to the ones being organized by the university because there were so many of them. So anyway, it's not like you're going out and like,
right.
of course, at
yeah,
times that also happened that you're going to offices, you're visiting those corporate offices, and there are much more people working over here, so it's easy to get in-person coffee chats, but it's not such a big thing that you will choose like city over a small town because of some
Yeah,
reasons.
no, it makes sense.
cool. And was your university able to provide you like the course that you chose? Was it able to provide you with like what you're looking for? Like, do you think something was missing or something was better than what you expected, etc.?
I knew what I was getting myself into because I had spoken to a lot of people. I
Yeah.
was very well versed with the curriculum, what I could expect. I would definitely have liked more practical touch points. Because Nottingham as a university is very research focused. So
Okay.
it will go into the traditional aspects, the foundational aspects of academic studies. So a lot of theories and stuff. They do have practical touch points, but I would have appreciated more of them definitely. And like honestly, whenever I speak about my experience at not the University of Nottingham or the course as a whole, I've never really just spoken about the classroom experience because that was one thing. But I think what really, shaped my growth trajectory, I think, and what really helped me become the person that I wanted to be or I would want to be actually, was the holistic experience of that whole university vibe and, doing things on your own, meeting a bunch of people, going to such events, studying, of course. But I mean, it was definitely good in terms of setting foundations. But since it was a conversion course, a lot of things weren't really new to me. Some of them were, some of them weren't. But yeah, I think no complaints, but I mean, no regrets as well. But yeah, I mean, I
I think
would have
I'm
liked more.
sorry to cut you, but I feel most masters are, I mean, whatever you learn, your academics can be learned on the internet as well. It's more about the experience, meeting people, of course, a degree and the stamp that you get as well, but more about like just meeting people and, you know, I agree. Like, I also stepped out of my house for the first time when I came to London. Like, I was living with my parents all my life. So that also really like it helps you grow, you understand yourself better, what you like, what you don't like I discovered I like cooking, like it's something that you just discover on the way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it makes sense, it's more like outside, more of the growth happens outside the classroom, so fair enough. And I think my next question would be regarding your job, because that's what more and more people want to understand, right? So we make a huge investment when we go for a master's, and we hope to get something in return. We need the ROI. How was the job process for you like? Like, when did you start applying? And did you know exactly what you wanted before you went, or were you applying for, various, like you were applying for diverse roles, or had you picked a niche? So how was your plan of action like?
So I guess I started university in September 2022 and I started applying for jobs from November because apparently a lot of the people that I spoke to were like, you'd have to start applying ASAP, especially if you want to get graduate schemes and stuff like that. And we do tend to fall into that trap. But honestly, I had started applying from November 2022, but and I must have like given a few interviews. I also attended some in-person assessment centers, but what actually helped were the jobs that I started applying closer to when I got to submitting my dissertation. Like I submitted my dissertation in September 2023, and the jobs that I started applying in August, like from August till like Jan, which is when I landed my job, that was like the most crucial time. I mean, that's when I started getting responses because up until then it was like, oh, it's still like 8 to 9 months away when you can actually start the job and stuff like that. So like that didn't really help a lot, except for the fact that I could understand, okay, this is what I need in my CV, this is how I need to tweak it, this is how I need to write my cover letters, this is the process of applying to jobs and speaking to people to understand what exactly are employers looking for. I mean, that stuff, that prep, that was helpful, but that also led to a saturation point when I started applying, like actually applying to jobs closer to time, because up until that point, it was like, oh, I've been applying for jobs for the past year and I've not landed anything. But that was not fair because I was not eligible to apply for jobs back then. So, and honestly, upon like in hindsight, a graduate scheme would not be the best idea for me because I'd already come with almost 2.5, 3 years of experience. And I also did a couple of small projects through university placements. So almost 4 years of experience. So for that, a graduate scheme was probably not the best idea. But I did go blindsided into it because that was the advice that everyone was giving out. But I think again, that's like tailored to what kind of journey you've had. I
Yeah.
mean, if you're fresh out of college, like if you're fresh out of your bachelor's and you've come for a master's or an MBA, then going for maybe graduate schemes makes sense. But then if you've had experience, not quite a lot, and then you're wasting that time applying to universities, and that does take a mental toll on you once you actually start applying and you're eligible for doing that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it does take a toll on you. I mean, for us, I think it also varies as per the industry and as per companies. I feel bigger companies tend to hire
1 year
earlier.
early.
For example, I was applying for consulting. So consulting tends to, and especially big consulting firms, big and medium size, they tend to hire early and they tend to give out their offers by like Feb maximum, Feb March. However, if I look at boutique firms, they do immediate hiring. So they need you to be free to start working as soon as you get the offer. Yeah, so I think that's what matters. And for marketing, even I've heard that a lot, because marketing is not very structured hiring except for graduate roles. So they tend to like they want you to join immediately. So I think for marketing, that makes a lot of sense. But there's so much peer pressure. Like you feel like you're lagging behind if you're not applying because everyone else around you is. So
But
you just yeah.
But then, like back then, I was just applying to like general marketing graduate schemes. Okay, just have to get my numbers in of how many applications I'm making, stuff, which did not make sense when I actually got to applying, close to when I was submitting my final dissertation, because that's when it really hit me. Okay, now I have time to focus on applications, because back then it's like you're juggling with the fact that you've just moved to a new country, you're handling stuff on your own, you're going to university, you're handling the academics, you're being social, because of course you have to be, and you're making the most out of your time there, plus you're applying to jobs, which is not a priority then, and it doesn't have to be done, but like people do tend to get into that. But I think it totally depends on which stage you're at and what kind of jobs you want to target. So definitely, if I had more info on that, okay, this is how I need to tailor my job search,
Yeah.
then I probably would not have started applying back then.
You is the ideal way to know more about how to structure your job search, right? Because marketing is such a wide field. You have different industries, you have different size of firms, you have product marketing, you have content marketing, you have like different styles of marketing, right? So how do you
Right.
find that what do you want to specialize into and what kind of jobs do you want to apply to?
So luckily, I sort of had an idea about what I wanted because I'd already dabbled a lot with content marketing. So I knew that I wanted to so I knew that there were a couple of entry points for me. I knew that the job market was tough. So one aspect was to find a content role, because that would be a low-hanging fruit since my CV is all about content. So that would be probably like the best way to kind of land an interview, especially considering the job market, sponsorship, tendency to sponsor, all of these things. So that was one route for me. The second was applying to generalist marketing roles, which I didn't want to do, because I mean, a lot of the things that are included in generalist marketing I'd already done before, and I didn't want to start from scratch again. So I did end up applying to a lot of content roles because that is what I liked doing, and that was like a sweet spot between what I'd done before, what I wanted to do later, and my CV also reflected that. So that kind of became like a sweet spot for me. But when I actually started applying, when I started interviewing, a lot of the places I got rejected to because I was overqualified. And that didn't make sense to me. And I was like, that is not done. So now what do I do
Be
exactly?
happy
Like, if
than getting someone who's overqualified, right?
yeah, but then I was like underqualified for senior level roles because I didn't have formal job experience, but I was overqualified for like junior level positions. So I was like in a weird position where I was not being hired even after the final interview, because they thought that I might ask for a promotion. Like that was the general consensus when I started asking for feedback, that they might think since you're overqualified, you might ask for a promotion very quickly, or you might jump jobs, like all of these things. And that's when I thought that maybe I need to move beyond this title and move into something else, which is when I started having conversations with a lot of product marketers to figure out that, okay, this is probably what I can do. It's a step beyond content marketing, still has a lot of elements of content marketing, brings me closer to product, which is the industry that I've been operating in, software products, all of those things, and would be a good learning experience for me. Like it would not be the same things that I've done before as well. So that's growth then. So I think that did require a lot of thinking, a lot of talking to a lot of people. Um, But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have figured it out so early. And I think and I think this is what a lot of students tend to do. They put too much pressure on themselves to kind of figure out what they want to do as soon as they start the course, because everyone's thinking about it. Your university is telling you, your careers team is telling you, you need to start right now, and all of these things that tends to put you in a lot of pressure, and you're not able to think that clearly. But when you do have the time to do that, like once your academic is done and you do
Yeah.
have buffer time in between, I think that's when everyone's more productive in doing all of these things.
And I think one thing that you mentioned about talking to people, I think that really helps. Talking to people who are in that role, who can give you a good, clear, honest picture of what their work looks like. I think that's a good way to understand if you would see yourself in that position, right? And that is one thing that people should really do. Talk to more and more people, because it just makes you understand what different roles are like, what the reality of it is like. And then if you see yourself doing that, then it's a way to go about it. Yeah.
100.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So what's your current, like, is it your current role is not an entry level role, right? Because you do have experience. So what role is it like?
So it's an associate role. It's a product marketing associate role. The role I interviewed for versus the role that I'm currently doing, like after joining the company, it's slightly changed because of internal company restructuring. So I am working at an associate level, but I'm kind of doing things that a senior level manager also does because of the restructuring that's being done. But it's pretty interesting. I mean, I reported to the VP of product marketing who's based out of San Francisco. Um, so it's not particularly entry level. So it's not something that I've done before. I've done bits and pieces of like product marketing before, but it's still relatively new because it has a lot of technical aspects to it. So I do tend to fall back on resources, still talking to a lot of PMMs and reading books and doing all of these YouTube videos and all of these things. But yeah, I think it was helpful to have that sort of content experience and kind of mold it in a sense that I could um you know kind of talk about the fact that I do have the skills required to be a product marketer, even though I don't have formal experience because of, just picking up bits and fragments. So it was all a matter of, like, initially I did have a lot of conversations with people wondering if this is the right move. Like, I'm looking for a job in London and I'm looking for it in a title that I've never done before. So is that a
Yeah.
right choice or is it a gamble? I spoke about this with a lot of people and they were like, it totally matters on how you show it in your CV. So like
Yeah.
CV does not have to be like verbatim what you've done in your last job. If you just sort of tailor it in the way that that job, or that company wants to hire or what they're hiring for, I think that makes a lot of difference. It makes a world of difference. So like if in a content role I'm saying that I've done XYZ content strategy for a brand, but in a product marketing role, if I say that I engage in, let's say, market research, competitive intelligence research, and XYZ segmentation research, which brought me to a content strategy, then that comes under product marketing. So it's just a matter of framing your CV the right way, which is what eventually helped me land product marketing interviews, even though I've never held this title before.
Yeah.
And as you
It's
mentioned that, talking to people, understanding what is required and how to go about things is the best way to, go about your job process, no matter when you started. And since you were so active on LinkedIn before, did it help you in any way in reaching out to people? Because many of the students face this problem, at least from what I saw, that they were reaching out to people who are working and doing the type like target job, but they didn't get any response from them. And that's what made things so much tougher. And since you had a reach, right, on LinkedIn before, did it help you in any way in getting those positive responses and people being more willing to talk to you?
Yeah, I would like to believe so. I mean, a lot of the times when I message people, they did end up looking at my profile first before responding to me. So I think 100% it helps. If you have an active profile, you don't have to have a massive following for sure. It's not that easy to build. I mean, it's not something that you can build over a couple of months. But if you're just active on the platform, and you have your profile optimized and stuff, and you're posting content, people can see that you're actually serious about what you're going to do with the kind of help they offer you, and just sort of tailor the message in a very crisp way. I mean, a lot of times, I mean, I've received messages from people saying that they're not getting responses from, help that they need from, let's say, their alumni or maybe people who are working in their fields. I've always found being very crisp and clear. So my message to people was always something like, hey, I saw that you're doing XYZ and I'm looking for a role in a similar industry. I'd love to jump on a very agenda-focused 30-minute call next week. And I'm happy to help in any way I can to return the favor. And that was it. I mean, and I did end up getting a lot of responses because it was very crisp, clear, short. And you're just asking for 30 minutes. And I did help a lot of people in any way I could, like maybe writing a LinkedIn post for them, or maybe just talking about their company, or maybe referring someone, a bunch of stuff that I did for them just in return, because networking again is not a one-way street. So I
Yeah.
think approaching in sort of that manner really helped. But coming back to your question, yes, I mean, an active LinkedIn profile is definitely brownie points.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, and also, I mean, even if you're like posting once a week, and if you're posting related to your industry, it does help you get following. And I think LinkedIn is a very good and I think convenient platform to spread a word, because of their algorithm. Like if just anyone in your following likes your post, it just goes to all of their followers as well. And I think that's a great way to spread awareness. I think it's something that people should use, very powerful. And I
Yeah.
think a good use can be made from it. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
That yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And when it comes to like, do you have any tips for people when it comes to building their LinkedIn? Because that's something that you are good at, and that's something that you have achieved. So if you have any tips for people on how to start maybe writing on LinkedIn, and how to use that LinkedIn network, like you said that you just explained us the text that you've helped that you used to send out people. Any other tips that you have for people on how to leverage their LinkedIn network to, actually maybe land a job, or any help in the job hunt process?
yeah, sure. I mean, it definitely starts from having like an active LinkedIn profile. And I think there's a huge myth that especially students have around creating content on LinkedIn, is that you need to create content in a very professional tone of voice, and it needs to be very well structured, or it needs to be perfect, in the sense, like what you're talking about needs to be expert led and stuff like that. But that's definitely not the way to go. A lot of the content that's actually resonated with people has honestly never been about content marketing or like marketing in general. A lot of it has been journey stories, like, why I ended up coming here, what's the experience been like, and any sort of processes or like time management strategies that have worked for me, because marketing content will mostly resonate with marketing folks. But all of this generic content like journey stories, people love to read stories. So
Yeah,
honestly, the best way
yeah,
to start creating content on LinkedIn is to start sharing your stories, and it does not have to be perfect at all. You just need to start shipping it fast. So if you get into that perfection loop, that will never happen. And I mean, if you do tend to happen to go into that loop, then creating content on LinkedIn is like not going to be easy. So the deal here, or the key is to really be simple with it, straightforward, be authentic, and sort of just start shipping content. And as in when people kind of engage with your post, they probably start reaching out to you. That's a good indicator that you're creating good content, and then you can start iterating on it. So I think that's the best way. I mean, just start doing it. Even if you do, like you mentioned, even if you do it like once or twice a week, that's fine. But starting is the main thing. I mean, then
yeah.
that keeping up is not very difficult. Just starting is the most difficult thing. As far as leveraging the network on LinkedIn is, honestly, I've seen that people are more than happy to help, like more than happy. I did help a lot of people in a few scenarios where I did give back something in return for their help or their time. In a lot of cases, and like that would be like 70% of the cases, there was nothing for them in return, and they did end up helping in any way. But you have to make it easy for them to help you. So in a lot of cases, when I knew that the person I was reaching out to was, let's say, an executive or a VP or a head, I would not request them for a call. I would go ahead and ask them if I could send them a bunch of questions, and they could answer it on text, on voice call, or a Loom video if they did not have time for like a synchronous video call. And that really helped in getting a response, because I mean, that's low maintenance. So if you just make it easy for people to help you, that's the best way to actually leverage that. And honestly, I mean, the rest is, I think, basic housekeeping. Just have an optimized LinkedIn profile, engage with people, and create content, and sort of leverage that. I'm a huge advocate of the if you don't ask, the answer is always no, because there are people who are more than happy to help if only you ask. So I think again, it's the matter of starting. So I mean that's where a lot of people kind of hold themselves back. I mean that they're their biggest, obstacle. So I mean if you tend to break free of that initial mental I think issue, that's when you can actually go ahead and kind of leverage all of these things. So it's just a matter of doing that, honestly.
I
And I
agree.
think pattern that has worked for me is reaching out to people, senior people. Like I used to restrict myself to people 1 or 2 years senior to me, because of working in a role that I want to work in, because I thought that they'll be, I'll connect better. That's true, they do tend to understand you better, but uh once or twice I've reached out to people who are working in senior positions, and I've realized that they're willing to help you more than ever, because they look at you as mentees, right? They want to mentor you, number one. Number two, I feel they relatively have more mental space or more time to help you, kind of, because people working in roles that, like, just 1 or 2 years senior to us, they tend to be working long hours, etc., right? So I've realized that just go ahead and ask. And sometimes people who are very senior can really make a difference, and there are people who are willing to, like, they look at you as mentees, and they really want to, like, do good for you and help you out. And I think a lot of people don't reach out to them, so they get less queries as well. So that's something that's really worked for me.
Yeah, that's very helpful actually.
Yeah. And I had one question. You just mentioned Loom video. I've not, like, I'm not aware of that. How does that work?
So Loom is just a screen recording platform of sorts. It can be used for other methods as well. So this is what I did in, like, when I was working with clients, when I was working as a freelance writer and content strategist. So a lot of the times people didn't have the time to get on a call, and this was during the pandemic as well. So of course you couldn't meet in person, and then people didn't have time to get on synchronous calls. So Loom is for asynchronous communication. So what you can do on Loom is simply go on the platform, sign in, and then just record yourself talking, and then simply share the link. So instead of like recording on phone or sending the file or uploading it to Google Drive and then sending the link, you can just simply send the link to that video to that person, and they'll get a summary of that and they can watch it. And it's just very convenient to send
Got it.
that as like
I had
an
no idea that
asynchronous form
this
of communication.
existed in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I'll ask. Maybe we can use it. It's
Yeah,
very,
no,
very,
definitely, it's very helpful.
yeah,
Quite
cool.
cool. So anyone who's applying to marketing in general, what are the 3 key tips that you'll give to them?
Marketing in general, I think number one would be get some experience. I mean, even if it's not a paid thing, if you can kind of volunteer or like work part-time or like even freelance for that matter, or like be a part of some projects, like shadow someone who's working at a company. A lot of times I've just messaged people, like when I was pivoting from content to product, I did kind of message people saying that, hi, I've done XYZ and I'm now transitioning from content marketing to product marketing, and I'm looking to get my hands dirty with some real product marketing work. So if you do need extra hands on deck, any assistance you need on your ongoing projects, I'm very happy to volunteer and help. So in that case, it just kind of helps you get that hands-on experience, and you can also add it to your CV. I mean, not as because I mean your CV is WorkX, whether it's paid or unpaid. So
Yeah.
that's good if you can do that. Number two, especially when you're doing like a master's degree, even if it's through the university or like, non-university, like from outside, do, try and get like industry relevant, either part-time experience or like an internship or something, because that really kind of helps put your foot in the door. Even if you do not end up converting that into a full-time role in that particular company, that will kind of help you put that forward in your CV, which is really helpful. And I think the third thing is get as specific as possible as soon as possible. I mean, working in marketing as a generalist is good, but knowing what you like doing and then developing that relevant skill set, like for example, you like doing SEO, which is search engine optimization, very good. Like work on that. If you like doing paid ads, social media, influencer marketing, community marketing, product marketing, there are so many aspects to it. So if you want to pick one, speak to people about it, understand what that role entails, go on LinkedIn, find what companies are looking for, and then try and develop that skill set, and then reflect that back to your CV and apply to those specific jobs. I think that's much better, because when you're applying to marketing generalist jobs, imagine that there are these many marketing generalist jobs and there are these many marketing graduates which are applying to all of them. And then there are specific, let's say, product marketing jobs, and you've got that product marketing skill set, and there are these many product marketing entry level roles. It's a far greater chance of you actually landing that role than a marketing generalist role, which a lot of undergrads plus postgrads plus PhD folks are applying to. So then that kind of expands your surface area when you're being niched in your approach. So I think that's been really helpful rather than kind of, just throwing spaghetti on the wall and hoping that sticks. I mean, I that's not really worked for me, because initially even I was in the numbers game thinking keep apply to as many jobs as possible. I mean, that tends to be the first, intention, because I mean, you tend to think that okay, that will work. But honestly, that targeted job search, that's been far helpful and rewarding than that spray and pray method ever was.
No, I agree with that. I think everyone wants you to be more aligned to their company, right? Because then that's how they know that you'll be a good fit, and it just makes their job easier. So,
Yeah,
and the alignment just becomes more and more tough the more specialized the job requirement is. So, if
right.
I'm getting like, if someone is hiring for a very particular, very niche role, and they find someone who's exactly fitting that very, like, mold. So, of course, they'd be more inclined to hire you than a very generous role in which, you have people from all across competing for. Yeah, makes sense. And you mentioned that you already had some product marketing experience, even though not formal experience, but you had the experience. So how did you get that? Because, uh, and how did you know that this is the product that you wanted to specialize in?
Right. So there's a lot of content creation in product marketing. So with product marketing, you position the product that you're working on, you engage in market research, competitive research, industry research. Um, you create the messaging for that product. You end up creating go-to-market strategies, like how to take that product to a specific market. And for that, content is again like a important aspect. So I had a lot of experience in content, and I had done a lot of content creation for these specific use cases, like how to position that company or how to create content for enabling the internal company on that particular product. So I'd done a bunch of that, but like I said, not in formal product marketing experience, but that was like content marketing work. So what I managed to do when I was kind of tweaking my CV for product marketing roles was just to present that in such a manner. Like I mentioned before, like for example, if a company, for example, needs someone who has experience in, let's say, um, creating go-to-market strategies and or launching or like being engaged in massive product launches, what I would do is just sort of talk about the content that I've created for launching a specific product and just kind of tailor that to that particular company's job description. And I think the first round is the most difficult to crack. After that, it's actually a little easier when you get the chance to interview with even the, because that first bit does require hard work, but it does require a little bit of luck as well, because I believe a lot of people who are qualified do not get the chance to get in front of someone on a screen, or in person, whatever it is. But I mean, that bit is the most difficult. So it's a game of totally tailoring what you do and how you've done it in a way that the company wants to hear. So I'm not talking about lying or like misleading, but articulating your work ex, or like even if it's like paid, unpaid, virtual, whatever it volunteering, whatever it is, just in a way that the employer might resonate more with. So that's exactly what I did, and that's what really helped.
Did you like tweak your CV for every role that you applied for, or was it like a different category of roles that you had, diversified your entire search across, and you just use that CV of that particular type for that category of job?
So initially, I had a bunch of different fields. Like when I was applying to like generalist roles, like I was applying to content marketing, I was applying to product marketing, I was applying to social media management. I had a bunch of different CVs, and that's what made it difficult to tweak it every time, to spend hours on that particular CV and not end up hearing even a no from the company. So that sucked, majorly sucked. But when I niched down to product marketing, I knew that, okay, I could pull up 10 job descriptions and see that, okay, X, Y, and Z is common in almost every job description. So that is how I tailor the CV. And then after that, I did not spend like even half an hour on a CV. It was a matter of making probably minor tweaks, because then it was tailored for a specific title, like product marketing. So that was far easier for me because my CV was like 90% there, and that 10% personalization depended from company to company, but that didn't require a lot of personalization because it was already optimized.
Yeah. And I feel like, for example, you've done content and you wanted to pivot to product marketing. I'm sure there were certain skills which were required in both. So rather than
Yeah.
stating the exact role that you've done, you focus on the skills that you've taken from content and that can be used in product. That's how you articulate it well. And I think that's what you're talking about when you say that you should, n- just tweak your CV as per the role that you're applying for.
Exactly. When I say that I've done a bit of both, like I've done a bit of product marketing in content marketing, that's exactly what I mean. That a lot of things were overlapping, and it was just a matter of kind of presenting it in that way that it seemed like more product marketing work than content
Correct.
marketing. So you were not exactly lying, you're just articulating, which is what employers want. So
I think
Yeah.
that's what the art of creating a CV is in general. Like, for example, even when you're applying for a master's, we always tell the students that many people have done many things, but it's all about how you market yourself. It's all about how you present yourself. So your entire chance do not depend on, how well qualified you are, but how you present yourself.
exactly.
I think one thing that we've missed, and I think I'd like to end it. It's already been 45 minutes. So one thing that I think we missed was how did your degree or did your master's help you in the job hunt? And if yes or no, then why do you think so and how it helped you?
I think yes and no. Diplomatic answer. Sorry about that, but I mean that's true. I mean, yes, in the sense that it made me think about like when I was just doing content marketing, I only thought about content as being like one of the biggest aspects of marketing a business. But when it came to studying the degree, I kind of understood that, content is a very, 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 very small part of, a business or even marketing a business. And that marketing as a function ju- does drive a business forward, but how it does that, how do different parts come together, that mindset was broadened when I actually pursued this degree. So that was one. Number two, confidence, meeting with people, attending events, being present at the right place at the right time in front of the right people. Those soft skills really matured in,
Yes.
when I was in university versus when I was back at home, because then I was, again, that was a safe space, and there was a very uncomfortable, high growth, high risk situation. So that really helped develop that sort of personality or those characteristics which are required for, like, let's say, a marketing role or a role in general when you're going forward with it. So I think that's what like really helped. And no, because a lot of my past experience actually helped me land this role. A lot of my profile that I had worked on, that I had built on LinkedIn, that's what really helped me. I think a little bit of both, but I would not say that my master's was the sole thing that drove me to this position.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when you talk about confidence, Anya and I were talking about it the other day. Like, oh, we conducted a few sessions in IIT and bits and stuff, and we went on stage and spoke. And now that I recall, before I came to LBS, before I came to London, I kind of had stage fright. I was scared to talk in front of people, and now we didn't even have jitters this time. We just walked on and we spoke, right? So that's what you were talking about. Like you don't even realize in the entire process, you just become so confident and you were able, like, I think that's something that's really helped us as well. So yeah, self-confidence and personal growth is a huge, huge aspect of coming for a master. It doesn't matter what university, where you're going, it's just being on your own and talking to people.
Yeah, and I think awareness is one more important aspect. Like, I didn't know a lot of things about me, what I was good at, what I wanted to do when I was surrounded by so much noise back home. Like, you tend to be involved in so many things. You're in such high simulation environment that you don't tend to be very self-aware. But I think when you have time to yourself here, when you're doing things by yourself, you do tend to get that awareness, which is really important to build that sort of career ahead. I won't say that it's like a non-negotiable, that I mean it's necessary to have, but it's a very good to have, and it's again good for that personal growth aspect too.
Perfect. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So thank you so much, Komal. Thank you for your time. And we are very, very sure that all the knowledge and all your experiences that you've shared with us are going to help a lot of people. And we hope you're able to reach more and more people. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a lovely platform that you guys are creating and kind of, working with people, helping them advance their career. So cheers to you guys on that. And thank you so much for having me. It was lovely chatting with you guys.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.